At an international event expected to symbolize unity and formality between religion and royalty, one unexpected moment left the entire world holding its breath. When Kate Middleton, the woman seen as the future of the British monarchy, approached Pope Leo XIV to offer a handshake, the room fell silent. But what shocked everyone wasn't a graceful, expected exchange. The Pope refused. No friendly gesture, no polite nod, no explanation. In that brief yet breathless moment, many thought it might be a minor oversight. But what happened next sent diplomatic aides scrambling and triggered a media storm worldwide. Pope Leo XIV didn't just decline Kate Middleton's handshake, he did something entirely unprecedented for a senior member of the British royal family. So what could have driven the supreme leader of the Vatican to act in such a pointed, symbolic way? Was this a simple diplomatic misunderstanding? Or is there a deeper message hidden beneath the surface? This shocking episode is opening up an entirely new wave of speculation about the true nature of the relationship offered between the Vatican and the British monarchy. The connection between the British monarchy and the Vatican has deep roots that have evolved over many years through a mix of disagreements, adjustments, and strategic communication. Initially, when we see a royal handshake, it may appear straightforward and customary. However, beneath this simple act lies a complex story of clashes over beliefs, gradual advancements, and the enduring influence of old customs. Some onlookers may have been perplexed or surprised by Pope Leo XIV's rejection of Kate Middleton's handshake during their encounter. But when history was examined, people started to grasp the significance that could have been attached to that specific instant. The tension between England and the Pope began in the 16th century, when King Henry VIII ruled. England was a Catholic nation loyal to the Pope, but things changed when the Pope wouldn't let Henry divorce Catherine of Aragon. In reaction, Henry broke away from the Roman Catholic Church and created the Church of England with him as the leader. This started the Anglican Church and a long-lasting religious divide. The split from the Roman Catholic Church was not only related to marriage, it resulted in a long period of religious conflict in England. The kings who ruled after Henry VIII alternated between Catholicism and Protestantism, imposing their beliefs and punishing those who disagreed. Violent battles, executions, and forced deportations became common in England's religious history. Catholics were considered outsiders for a long time, and the Pope, who was once respected by English monarchs, was seen as a foreign leader without authority in their country. English monarchs avoided visiting the Vatican for a long time. It was rare for them to make formal visits there. Despite the continued influence of Catholicism in Europe, England maintained its independence from Rome. Historically, any link between the British royal family and the Pope would have been seen as controversial until recently. The British monarchy and the Vatican started to improve their relationship in the 20th century. In 1980, Queen Elizabeth II visited Pope John Paul II at the Vatican, making her the first current British monarch to do this in recent history. The meeting was meaningful as it symbolized a reconciliation between the two entities. Despite the friendly exchange of words and gestures, Queen Elizabeth II, being the supreme governor of the Church of England, still belonged to a religious organization that separated from Rome. Royal visits to the Vatican occur infrequently, but they are significant events. These visits are typically calm and meticulously arranged. Every detail, including words, actions, and movements, adheres to a set of rules. Nothing is random, and each action is analyzed for its possible meaning. Even a simple handshake can hold great importance. The split between Anglicans and Catholics is not as harsh as before, but it's still there too. The God who does dwell within us. And so to help people rediscover the presence of God, to rediscover the meaning of a relationship with Jesus Christ. Even though both churches have tried to collaborate, there are significant discrepancies in their beliefs, traditions, and organizational setup. Catholics view the Pope as the head of all Christians, whereas Anglicans see their church as independent and do not feel the need for a central authority in Rome. These distinctions are hard to ignore, especially in important meetings. This leads us to Pope Leo XIV meeting Kate Middleton. When he decided not to shake her hand, it surprised everyone. However, looking back at history, his choice may not have been meant as disrespect or rejection. It could have been a subtle reminder of the past, indicating that despite efforts at dialogue, certain boundaries still exist. What truly happened between the Pope and the Princess of Wales? Why did he refuse her handshake? Could this gesture hint at deeper tensions? This is the unspoken moment between a princess and the Pope. It had only been 5 days since Pope Leo XIV appeared on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica for the first time. The world was still shocked by his election. He was an American-born pope with connections to Peru, a surprising choice for many. He chose to be simple rather than extravagant, wearing a plain black cassock instead of the traditional robes with gold and jewels. He did not wear the papal ring that past popes had worn. He appeared alone, without a large group of people surrounding him and without a fancy throne. Observers reported that he ate at a simple wooden table and slept on a plain cot in a small, unadorned room. He made it known that he was not interested in thrones and crowns, opting for a crown shaped by sacrifice instead. One morning, Pope Leo knelt in prayer in the Sistine Chapel as the soft light filtered through the stained glass windows in the ancient walls. The only sound breaking the heavy silence was the distant footsteps. A Vatican aide quietly entered the chapel and respectfully informed the Pope that Princess Catherine of Wales had requested an audience. She was already on her way to Rome without a formal invitation or diplomatic arrangements. Just a personal request. The Pope opened his eyes, stood up, and asked if it was the Duchess of Cambridge who wanted to meet him. When the aide confirmed, Pope Leo instructed the receiving room to be prepared, but stated the meeting would not follow usual customs. When asked about notifying the press, he said it was unnecessary, as the world would hear about it eventually. High above the Mediterranean, Princess Catherine sat in her private plane, calmly reviewing a statement with her team. Every word had been carefully written as her staff surrounded her, going over every detail. The message she was going to deliver was about elegance and respect, aiming to connect past and present, faith in modern identity. Her stylist had confirmed her outfit, ivory with soft pearls, meant to show strength without being too loud. One nervous assistant had mentioned that Pope Leo was not a traditional man and did not always follow expected rules. Catherine had replied that she wasn't trying to impress him, only to meet him. Her focus had been on understanding, not putting on a performance. When her plane touched down in Rome, there was a buzz of excitement within the Vatican walls. People were whispering and wondering about the unexpected royal visit. Journalists were rushing to find out more details, while guards were getting ready at their posts. Cameras were being set up for the occasion. Inside the Vatican and the usual meeting hall for official visits had been prepared, but it was missing the usual grand decorations. There were no fancy velvet curtains or gold-plated chairs. Pope Leo was quietly waiting, dressed simply in a red mozzetta over his cassock. He wasn't wearing any rings or holding a staff. He sat calmly with his hands resting on his lap. When the large doors opened, Princess Catherine walked in. Everyone noticed her when she entered the room because of her confident and genuine manner. The atmosphere became quiet, and flashbulbs started flashing as cameras recorded the moment. The people in the room stopped talking. She walked toward the Pope with a friendly smile as she greeted him warmly and shook his hand. Observers noticed that Pope Leo did not move or raise his hand to shake hers. His eyes stayed on her peacefully and confidently. Time seemed to stand still as her hand hovered in the air. After a few moments, she lowered her hand with a sense of acceptance. Although her expression stayed the same, a hint of doubt in her eyes was evident. Pope Leo remained silent and did not hug or say sorry. He simply walked past her toward a table with a basin, pitcher, and towel. No one explained what was going to happen, but the significance started to become clear without words. At that time, the atmosphere in the room had changed. There was no planned outline to stick to, and no one had said anything. However, something important had happened. This gathering did not require any speeches or displays of authority. It was something more subtle and profound. However, his response to Kate stunned the world. Before we dive into that, let's take a closer look at his position and why he might have taken such an action. We want to take a personal look at Pope Leo XIV, who is now the spiritual father to around 1.4 billion Catholics around the world. This is the remarkable rise of Pope Leo XIV. Pope Leo XIV, originally named Robert Francis Provost, has undergone a remarkable journey that few could have predicted. He was born in Chicago, Illinois, on September 14, 1955, and was raised in a devout Catholic family with strong principles. Growing up in the United States, he felt a calling to dedicate his life to serving others. Instead of pursuing wealth or fame, his passion was for God and helping people. Interestingly, his path led him from the streets of Chicago to the Vatican. He became a member of the Order of St. Augustine, a religious group that emphasizes community, education, and missionary activities. His time as an Augustinian was peaceful and devoted. He had a strong belief in helping others with modesty. This strong sense of purpose took him to Peru, where he would have many important experiences. Robert Provost worked closely with people in impoverished areas in Peru for many years. Instead of just visiting or watching, he lived among the people, prayed with them, and worked alongside them. Due to his deep connection with both the poor and the clergy, he became a respected figure in the local church. As a result of his extensive work in the region, he was chosen to be the Bishop of Chiclayo, a diocese in northern Peru. Despite the significant responsibility, he approached it with his typical calm and dedication. During his time as bishop, he demonstrated that he was more than just a skilled priest. He was a leader who listened, acted fairly, and guided others with patience. He prioritized strengthening the church's relationship with the community, promoting vocations, and enhancing seminary education. Despite his position of authority, he maintained a humble and straightforward approach. He was recognized for his ability to relate to people on a personal level rather than from a position of superiority. Because of his exceptional performance, he started to become more recognized in Rome. In 2023, Pope Francis selected him as the prefect of the dicastery for bishops, a crucial role in the Vatican responsible for selecting new bishops globally and ensuring their integrity and faith. In his position as prefect, Robert Provost earned the confidence of many due to his cautious and diligent approach to his duties. He prioritized thoroughness over haste, asked pertinent questions, and saw beyond superficial attributes like titles or appearances. His role at the dicastery gave him a strong but subtle ability to influence. He influenced the church's future by selecting leaders who prioritized their communities. He emphasized the importance of honesty, humility, and spiritual resilience, qualities that reflected his life. Those in the Vatican viewed him as a non-political figure who remained true to the teachings of the gospel. In 2005, there was no longer a pope. People all over the world were paying close attention. The cardinals met to pick the new head of the Catholic Church. Quite a few names were brought up. However, as the voting went on, Robert Provost's name stood out. He wasn't flashy or trying to get attention, but he was held in high regard. The cardinals believed he was someone who practiced what he preached. They recognized his years of experience, deep connection to prayer, and genuine care for others. When he was elected as pope, he decided to go by the name Leo XIV. This made him the first pope since Leo XIII in 1903 to have that name. The decision was significant because it showed his intention to carry on the legacy of thoughtful leadership, harmony between old and new, and respect for people's worth. By choosing the name Leo, he indicated that he would lead with wisdom rather than self-interest. He made history as soon as he became Pope Leo XIV. He was the first pope born in the United States and from North America, as well as the first pope with Peruvian citizenship. Great pride. This is an awesome thing in the sense that the first not only pope, but first American pope, pope from Chicago, and a being from the order of St. Augustine. He was the first pope from that order and the second from the Americas after Pope Francis. These details made his election special, but it was his character and actions that set him apart. During his early days as Pope, Leo XIV concentrated on empowering bishops. He urged leaders to be more truthful and advised churches to maintain a strong connection with their communities. Leo emphasized that being a bishop or priest should be about love, not control. He promoted open communication and unity among diverse cultures, stressing that the church is global, not limited to one nation or faction. His way of leading was straightforward. He did not make big declarations. Instead, he showed bravery in a calm manner. He paid attention and replied thoughtfully. His experience as a missionary shaped him. He carried that same attitude to the Vatican, modest, determined, and willing to help. Pope Leo XIV focused on improving education, training clergy, and revitalizing spirituality. He thought the church needed to strengthen internally before expanding externally. He backed initiatives for environmental protection, empathy toward migrants, and interfaith dialogue. However, he promoted these without inciting conflict or instilling fear. He always chose a gentle approach, believing that love is more powerful than coercion. His influence became strong in a short amount of time. People from all over the world, regardless of their religion, started to look up to him for his conduct. He did not seek to make an impression. He just stayed true to his beliefs. Many saw him as a humble leader, not a dictator. However, this was where his power lay. Amidst all the chaos, his soothing voice brought a sense of tranquility. Pope Leo XIV's journey to becoming pope was different from the usual. He did not climb the ranks with flashy titles or loud speeches. Instead, he gained influence through service, loyalty, and quiet leadership. What did this action say about him? And how did the Princess of Wales react? This is a gesture that spoke louder than words. The Vatican Hall was unusually quiet, with even the sound of papers rustling being absent. All eyes were on Pope Leo XIV, standing by a silver basin, looking calm and ready for something unexpected. The crowd's attention had initially been on a missed handshake, but now there was something more significant happening. Catherine, Princess of Wales, who was also known as Kate Middleton, was standing in front of him. She was famous globally for being composed, handling pressure gracefully, and maintaining an elegant public persona. She was known for always knowing what to say, sporting a flawless smile, and dressing impeccably for every event. However, she was now facing a situation without any guidelines. There were no advisors giving her tips or palace-prepared notes outlining what to anticipate. This was not a formal gathering. It was evolving into something unexpected. The Pope spoke to her gently with a strong and purposeful voice. He mentioned that he did not come for a simple photo opportunity or to exchange pleasantries. Instead, he wanted to offer something meaningful with roots in centuries-old tradition. The atmosphere in the room changed suddenly from tension to confusion. Kate's team, usually well-prepared, looked puzzled as they were not expecting this. Vatican officials leaned in to figure out what was going on, while press members were left in shock. A journalist was so surprised that they dropped their pen, the noise echoing through the grand marble chamber. Kate, who was usually self-assured when meeting prominent figures, paused. It wasn't fear that held her back, but rather the understanding that this situation was completely unfamiliar to her. She traveled to Rome to meet the newly elected pope and extend a message of goodwill person to person. However, she soon realized that the pope had a different plan in mind. He then asked her to participate in a ceremony that dated back further than any position they held. He emphasized that this encounter was about being humble, not about one's status. The shiny silver bowl sparkled gently in the light. The atmosphere in the room became filled with excitement. The Pope remained still, holding his hands over the water. Kate glanced at the bowl, then back at him. Her soft voice expressed surprise at the situation. The Pope concurred calmly, stating that unexpected moments are often the most significant. The focus in the room had moved away from politics or customs. It had transitioned into something holy. He invited her to the opposite side of the basin and kindly pointed out that leadership is not about being strong, but being humble. He noticed her hand reaching out, the same hand she had used to greet him earlier. Kate froze for a second. She was taught to handle unexpected situations and maintain her composure. However, this was beyond her control. She needed to do something she wasn't used to. She needed to let go and surrender. Despite feeling a pull to retreat to familiarity, the Pope's soothing demeanor convinced her to stay. With a deep breath, she moved forward and accepted his invitation, causing a ripple of reactions in the room. Gasps could be heard, cameras were raised, and her advisors were stunned. Nonetheless, she kept walking toward the Pope, now standing face to face with him. Her face appeared calm, and her posture was stable, but her eyes showed a new level of honesty and sincerity. She did not resemble a royal or a potential queen at that particular moment. Instead, she seemed like someone ready to listen and engage in a genuine and peaceful manner. The Pope picked up a clay pitcher and poured water into the basin, creating a soft, melodic sound that filled the room. In a gentle voice, he reminded everyone of the time when Jesus washed his disciples' feet as a gesture of love and humility, not obligation. He put his hands in the water without saying anything. The room was very quiet. Kate then took a white towel and dried the Pope's hands carefully. She moved slowly and attentively, concentrating only on the present moment. The cameras caught something more than just a surface-level interaction. At that moment, she wasn't putting on a show. She was just being herself, quietly showing kindness in a sacred way. After she finished, the Pope grabbed the pitcher once more. This time, he cleaned her hands. These hands had done so much: raised children, greeted crowds, carried out royal responsibilities, and captivated millions. Now they were being washed gently. Kate did not resist. She let the Pope dry them. At that moment, something unspoken was shared between them, something that wasn't about politics or royalty, but about being truly human. No one made any noise or showed excitement. Everyone was silent and just observed. They knew that something significant had occurred, even though they couldn't explain it in words. The Pope instructed one of his assistants to allow the press back in. Then he turned to the reporters and encouraged them to ask questions if they wanted to. Kate glanced at her hands, noticing they were dry but feeling a change in them. Although her expression remained composed, her body language seemed more relaxed. She maintained her posture and gracefulness, but there was a new energy about her. Standing next to the Pope, she no longer felt like just a visitor. There was a subtle bond between them that was previously absent. The cameras kept filming. People everywhere were watching, trying to understand what they saw. There was a shift in the situation. Even though nobody could clarify it at the moment, they recognized it as something significant to remember. However, there was something deeper behind the Pope's refusal, something no one could see. This is the handshake that revealed more than words. They had gathered, as they always do, journalists from around the world with their notepads, cameras, and microphones at the ready. However, there was something unusual about the atmosphere this time. Instead of the usual excitement and tension, there was a strange silence that hung in the room. Nobody hurried to speak or react. It wasn't fear, but rather confusion. The anticipated drama did not unfold. Everyone waited, unsure if what they had seen was a conflict or something more personal and profound. A French reporter asked the Pope if not shaking hands with the Congresswoman meant he was rejecting her. The Pope replied that it was not about rejection, but about intention. He said, "Many gestures today are done for show, not sincerity." He did not refuse the handshake to embarrass her, but to avoid shallow interactions. His words did not cause a commotion. Instead, they gradually influenced how people viewed the recent event. The Congresswoman next to him seemed deep in thought, with a softer, less guarded expression. It was evident that something had resonated with her on a personal level, going beyond the usual protocol. A journalist from Reuters asked if she had felt offended. The congresswoman replied that she was surprised but not offended. She thought there would be a formal protocol, but what happened gave her a new point of view. Another reporter wondered if the entire event had been staged for the cameras. The Pope nearly smiled and mentioned that if it had been planned, it would have lacked significance. He confirmed that it was not staged. It was real. The congresswoman wasn't surprised. She showed empathy instead. She explained that there's a distinction between being caught off guard and being asked to think deeply. She acknowledged that the Pope's message was challenging but truthful, and that honesty is not common in politics. The reporters became more interested as they listened closely. The intense presence of the congresswoman started to diminish. The Pope was no longer seen as only a symbol of tradition from afar. However, a person in the back of the room suggested that some thought the Pope had made the congresswoman uncomfortable and was using the situation to assert power instead of showing humility. The Pope responded by saying that if humility ever came across as dominance, then maybe people did not fully understand the true meaning of humility. The event did not seem like just a regular press conference, but rather like a timeless revelation had been recalled. Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, was watching closely from her beautiful home in Windsor. She paid close attention to everything happening. This wasn't just a story about politics or religion. It was about staying composed in tough times and finding value in quiet, simple moments. Kate had a strong grasp of this concept. Kate Middleton did not seek attention by being loud or dramatic. She carried herself calmly in royal life, which said a lot. Like the Pope not taking part in meaningless rituals, Kate focused on being present rather than putting on a show. Her movements at royal events were gentle and purposeful, showing warmth without going overboard. She showed restraint out of respect for something greater than herself, not out of fear. In the quiet pause, Kate realized the importance of being patient and attentive. Instead of getting defensive like others might, she handled awkward situations gracefully. Her confidence stemmed from not feeling the need to impress anyone. She wasn't putting on an act. It was a sincere conviction. Journalists kept asking questions to the Pope, and one questioned why he chose water for a symbolic moment. The Pope replied that water purifies, humbles, and unites. He mentioned that in sacred texts, water was the first sign of creation, and he questioned how people could lead from the same Shiraz if they couldn't stand together in the same basin. Kate, who managed to navigate between tradition and modern life, completely understood the situation. She experienced pressure from societal expectations, family, and responsibilities as a member of the royal family, sometimes all at the same time. However, she rarely wavered because she, similar to the Pope, valued subtle symbolism. Kate looked at her hands and remembered that she wasn't expecting to feel humble that day. She acknowledged that she did not agree with everything the church believed, but she thought about her grandfather's advice. If arrogance overpowers moral judgment, then real leadership is compromised. Even though Kate may not have used the same words, her actions showed the same idea. By helping hospital patients, staying away from controversy, and protecting her family, Kate showed that real leadership is not about being noisy. It's about being steady and reliable. The congresswoman was asked if she would do it again, and she replied yes without hesitation. She explained that it wasn't easy, but she believes that real change happens when we step out of our comfort zones. The Pope agreed, and that message was soon shared on social media, completely changing the narrative. So this isn't meant as sort of a blanket elimination of the media in terms of the usefulness that the instruments of modern communication. What some thought was a refusal turned out to be a surprising revelation. How did the media react to this? And what was Catherine's next move? This is the moment that changed everything. Something out of the ordinary occurred in the large hall. Instead of the usual hustle and bustle of camera flashes and quick questions, a quiet stillness came over the room. Reporters, who were typically in a rush to ask their questions, now found themselves paying close attention. They were not only hearing words, but also sensing the significance of the situation. The first person to break the silence was a BBC journalist, who asked the Pope about concerns raised by certain commentators. These individuals believed that his actions could potentially blend the boundaries between religion and politics, as well as between true faith and mere performance. The reporter pondered whether this could set a risky precedent. Pope Leo XIV replied calmly and confidently. He clarified that faith is not meant to be a show, and helping others is not about putting on a performance into an experience where they can rediscover what it means to have faith, what it means to have a relationship. He stated that the recent event was not a merging of church and state, but rather a shift away from grand displays. The Pope then looked at Catherine, the Princess of Wales, who was standing quietly beside him. In that moment, she was more than just a royal leader. She was someone who had displayed true courage. Her response was not one of surrender, but of bravery. Kate did not feel the urge to speak right away. She appeared calm and thoughtful instead of defensive or charming. This was a part of her personality that was usually not visible when she was fulfilling her royal duties. A person who listened carefully before making a decision and who thought before speaking. Another journalist then inquired if Kate believed the situation was a way to challenge her power or authority. Kate responded with a gentle but firm manner that it wasn't about power or status. It was a test of being present, and she decided to be completely engaged without trying to impress or show off. The atmosphere in the room shifted. It was no longer just a media gathering. It had turned into a pivotal moment where faith, tradition, and personal convictions intermingled and had an impact on each other. A different reporter inquired whether the Pope's actions symbolized a new form of Vatican diplomacy, something intimate, unconventional, and emotive. The Pope promptly responded that it was not about diplomacy, but about following as a disciple. The Church did not engage in flashy performances, but stood for honesty. He expressed that individuals were wary of shallow gestures and insincerity. A journalist from South America inquired about the significance of Princess Catherine accepting the Pope's gesture. The Pope glanced at Kate and remarked that it demonstrated the possibility of change. He mentioned that even those born into royalty could opt for humility. He emphasized that genuine faith was not concerned with status or titles. It only mattered if a person was willing to humble themselves. Some reporters put down their pens, and at that moment, it seemed like the journalists were not just observers, but witnesses to something more profound. Kate spoke with confidence and honesty. She shared that she used to believe strength was about being flawless. However, she now understands that true strength includes vulnerability. She addressed the audience as a person rather than a royal. She emphasized the importance of not mixing up style with substance or surface confidence with deep belief. Kate acknowledged that she is still growing and aspires to keep learning. The Pope placed his hand on his chest and mentioned that real leaders do not lead from a distance, but stand by others. He noted that this was evident today. Outside the building, there were still crowds, but now they were calmer, no longer focused on rumors, but looking for understanding. The press conference concluded with a feeling of respect instead of excitement or disorder. This is the silent meeting that stirred the world. An assistant led Pope Leo XIV and Kate Middleton out of the hall. Instead of parting ways, the Pope gestured toward a secluded corridor. There were no cameras or microphones, just the two of them. Kate hesitated briefly before following him. They strolled down a narrow passage and entered a private chapel. The room was basic, with only a single candle flickering under a plain wooden crucifix. There was no gold or marble, just silence enveloping them. Kate acknowledged that she was not prepared for the current situation. The Pope reassured her that no one ever is fully ready. He humbly knelt in the front pew while she stood awkwardly behind him. Kate confessed that she had believed she would have complete control over everything. The Pope gently inquired about the type of control she truly desired. Seated next to him, Kate pondered deeply. She had been talking about leadership, creating change, and giving a voice to the marginalized for years. However, as she gazed at the crucifix, she realized she had only been focused on controlling the external world, neglecting to allow herself to change internally. The Pope smiled gently and hinted that maybe today marked the start of a new chapter for her. Suddenly, a quiet knock at the door interrupted them, but the Pope ignored it. He then pulled out a small olive wood rosary from his sleeve, explaining that it was a present from a woman in Palestine who had lost 3 sons in a war. This woman had very little left except for her faith, which she generously shared with others. The Pope gave Kate a rosary and explained that it was more than just a gift, but a reminder of her inner strength. Kate held the rosary, confessing that she did not know how to pray. The Pope reassured her that she had already been doing so. Kate chuckled softly, feeling a bit uneasy yet amazed by the connection they shared. Kate surprised the Pope by not running away from the unexpected situation. Instead, she stepped into it. The Pope questioned why she stayed after he rejected her handshake. Kate explained that she saw it as a challenge rather than a rejection. The Pope acknowledged her answer and said she had not failed. Outside the chapel, people were talking and wondering about what had happened earlier. Inside, 2 leaders were sitting quietly, without any fancy titles, guards, or showy behavior. They were just 2 individuals trying to understand the true meaning of humility. As they emerged, the energy in the air felt changed. The reporters spoke more softly, feeling that something special had occurred. The Pope and Kate strolled together alone and without any fanfare, just being there quietly. One reporter inquired if they would make a statement. Kate hesitated, looked at the Pope, and said that this time words would not suffice. The audience became quiet. The Pope greeted everyone with his hand, then surprisingly offered his hand to Kate. Kate shook his hand. The crowd cheered, not in a disruptive way, but in amazement. It was a handshake that showed acknowledgement and admiration, not dominance or triumph. Inside the Apostolic Palace, a cardinal mentioned that this kind of moment had never occurred previously. The Pope smiled and commented that neither had Christ's actions ever occurred. But what do these 2 leaders have in common? And how do you think it will influence their relationship? This is the unseen influence of Pope Leo XIV and Princess Catherine. Pope Leo XIV, originally named Robert Francis Provost, is now widely respected as a humble and gentle leader around the globe. He doesn't use a forceful or loud approach to gain attention. Instead, his warm, humble, and calm demeanor captivates others. He doesn't need to shout to make his point. His presence alone is enough to convey his kind, steady, and principled character. Pope Leo XIV is notable for his unique combination of simplicity and wisdom as the leader of the Catholic Church. Some people were taken aback when he was chosen as Pope in 2025, not due to lack of qualifications, as he was highly regarded for his diligent efforts with bishops and missionary work in Peru, but because he did not actively seek attention or fame. Despite his reluctance for the spotlight, he embraced his new responsibilities with poise and determination, demonstrating that gentle leadership can also be impactful. Leo XIV values listening to others and believes it is important for leaders to have a deep understanding of the people they serve. He works closely with bishops, priests, and everyday Catholics rather than taking the lead. While he respects tradition, he also advocates for mercy and reaching out to those who may feel marginalized in the Church. Leo XIV takes a careful and thoughtful approach in his role, never rushing decisions. He believes strongly in his principles. Honesty is important to him, as is responsibility. He wants church leaders to be responsible, not only in their teachings, but also in their actions. His aim is to regain trust, especially in areas where people have lost faith in religious figures. He does not make grand promises with flashy announcements. Instead, he chooses to work steadily and quietly, believing that slow progress is more enduring. Leo XIV, in the realm of politics, prefers to stay neutral and maintain a sense of respect. He thinks that the Church should focus on issues like justice, peace, and human dignity without getting involved in political maneuvering. He talks softly but with conviction about helping the less fortunate, the value of hard work, and the significance of protecting the environment. Leo XIV doesn't aim to win debates or pick sides. His priority is to mend divisions and promote unity. When it comes to monarchy, especially the British monarchy, he respects it without causing any drama. He recognizes the long-standing traditions and values the symbolic significance it holds in society. While he rarely discusses royal issues, it's evident he values the monarchy as a vital part of global culture and history. He avoids being confrontational and focuses on creating connections rather than barriers. This method invites comparisons with Princess Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Although their roles may seem different at first glance, one leads the Catholic Church while the other is a member of the British royal family. Upon closer examination, you'll notice a rare shared grace that exudes strength and comfort. Both individuals are recognized for their peaceful demeanor. They do not actively seek attention, but they exude it gracefully when necessary. They are thoughtful in their choice of words, speaking only when necessary, and have the ability to command attention when they do. Instead of using force, they derive their strength from their dignified demeanor. Princess Catherine is respected for her dedication. Much like Pope Leo XIV, she has earned trust through her quiet efforts over the years. She stays away from scandals and doesn't seek attention. Princess Catherine prioritizes her role, family, and charitable work. Pope Leo XIV shares her mindset, as he also doesn't seek praise or recognition. Both of them focus on what's important, helping people, seeking truth, and showing care. However, the main difference between them is the nature of their work. Catherine is involved in public events, fashion, and meeting royal expectations. She is known for representing beauty in a modern monarchy. On the other hand, Leo XIV focuses on doctrine, prayer, and leading the global church. Despite their different roles, both of them bring a sense of calm to their environments and carry out their duties with grace. Many individuals view Pope Leo XIV as reliable, down-to-earth, and very spiritual. He is not known for being shocking or surprising, but rather for providing comfort and hope through his simple and faithful lifestyle. This is the challenges faced by Pope Leo XIV. Pope Leo XIV is well known for his calm and humble leadership, but like any public figure, especially one overseeing a large population, he has faced challenges during his time in office. Although he has managed to avoid personal scandal, the church under his leadership is dealing with significant issues that require his patience, wisdom, and consistent approach. The Catholic Church has faced difficulties in handling violent cases. Pope Leo XIV is focusing on transparency and accountability, following reforms from past leaders. Pope Francis made it very clear that he doesn't want people to be excluded simply on the basis of choices that they make, whether it be lifestyle. Despite this, some survivor groups are worried about the slow progress in past case handling, especially during his earlier positions. This has caused a challenge in balancing his cautious approach with the demand for justice from the faithful. One aspect that Pope Leo XIV has been concentrating on is his choices for leadership positions. He has been selecting bishops and cardinals who have a caring and welcoming attitude in order to mend rifts within the church. You know, we're looking for that kind of change. But we are looking to be more welcoming and more open, and to say all people are welcome. And despite upholding traditional church beliefs, his friendly demeanor has made some conservative groups uneasy. His goal is to promote unity and communication instead of causing strong disagreements. He is the first American-born pope with Peruvian citizenship, which gives him a special view of the world. At first, people doubted his knowledge of European church politics, but he has gained respect by showing strong faith and good decision-making skills. This shows that leadership can come from different backgrounds. Though they come from entirely different worlds, one a symbol of secular monarchy, the other the supreme representative of the Catholic faith, Kate Middleton, and Pope Leo XIV share a remarkable common thread. Both bear a mission that transcends titles and power. They represent stability in a world of constant change, hope amidst upheaval, and moral values in an age increasingly adrift. If Pope Leo XIV speaks for faith, forgiveness, and unity, then Kate Middleton inspires through her composure, dedication to family, and ability to connect with the public from the heart. That seemingly controversial refusal of a handshake may, in fact, mark the beginning of a silent yet profound dialogue about the human role in healing a fractured world. And perhaps, standing at opposite ends of the cathedral and the crown, both Kate and the Pope understand this truth, that true greatness does not come from thrones or crowns, but from tireless service to timeless values.